Hello everyone, my name is Marian Pfeiffer. I'm an associate professor in landscape ecology and management at Newcastle University, and in these slides I will talk you through what we presented for the Wildlife Corridor Restoration SNAPP team during the virtual workshop training organized by SNAPP and run in May 2021 at the start of the project. Present at this workshop were core members of the Wildlife Corridor Restoration team. That is Professor Susanna Sado from the University of Leeds, myself, and Professor Steve Rushton from Newcastle University in the UK, Dr. Trevor Jones from the local Tanzanian NGO STEP, and Dr. Dio Shirima from the Tanzanian NGO Reforest Africa, and Sokoine University of Agriculture. We are a team of government actors, industry partners, local and international conservation NGOs and scientists, and with this project we want to identify the evidence that is required to successfully restore wildlife corridors in human inhabited landscapes. We do so for a case study in Tanzania, in which we have been working for some time to understand human well-being and biodiversity. It's also a landscape in which several restoration and development interventions have been carried out or are being planned. We believe the challenge of wildlife corridor restoration or any restoration is a topical challenge. We are just at the start of the UN decade on ecosystem restoration, and then there are always global tree planting initiatives for climate change mitigation. And we know that getting the restoration process right is tricky. This is if you want to think about biodiversity outcomes and climate change outcomes, but even more so if you want to think about human well-being outcomes. And this is something we are interested in and want to get right, and we also know this is important for the Sustainable Development Goals. We will use tools from natural and social sciences to document the realities of the restoration process, in this case trees, on the ground, and specifically we are interested in 3 areas. That is to synthesize existing data, whether they are digitized in people's heads or on paper, to fill data gaps if they exist, to map and evaluate, use the data to inform the restoration process, and that is social data and natural science data, and to co-produce research and research outcomes. For the first task, we specifically want to zoom into trade-offs between services, the benefits, and disservices. And here we are very much interested in conflicts between crops and larger wildlife. We are also interested in conflict tolerance of local communities and in identifying mitigation solutions so we can manage for conflicts. We want to use these data to inform the management and location of tree restoration process on the ground, and also to identify which tree species we may want to use in the process. And in terms of the co-production, that is really aiming for outcomes that go beyond academic papers. Specifically, we are interested in producing guidance for practice, best practice of restoration in human inhabited landscapes, policy documents, policy briefs, and narratives, and also management plans. This is the location of our site in sub-Saharan Africa. It's the Kilombero Valley in Tanzania, and here you can see that as a Landsat display. What you can see on the left-hand side is the mountain forest of the Usunkwa Mountains National Park. In the center you see the Macombera Forest Triangle, these are lowland forests, and to the east the dry forests and savanna landscapes of the Selous. The valley is a crop production hotspot where you find smallholder farmers to the center, in the south, and along the boundary of the national park to the west, and industrial farming to the north of the Macambara Forest Triangle. Here in this landscape is mostly sugarcane and rice. We do have quite a lot of biophysical data from the landscape already because of previous projects and ongoing complementary projects. The water is coming from the mountains going into the catchment area. The larger rivers flow through the valley and the smaller creeks are disappearing into drainage channels in the crop production area. The road network is shown here in gray. It's dense and it's expanding. In white you see the villages, they are also growing and expanding. And in pink you see a current plan for a wildlife corridor, a wildlife movement corridor going from the east to linking wildlife, in particular for elephants, it's meant, to the forests in the Usunga Mountains National Park. We have mapped land use in the area. We have implemented bird surveys. Here are the points shown in green, and we have implemented mammal surveys, here shown as orange triangles, the location of the camera traps. We have also done insect surveys, not shown here, on intense ecological monitoring plots. And we have measured a lot of other things. The local NGO SNAPP has over several years mapped locations of crop elephant conflicts, and this is what you see here, where these conflict events are in gray triangles. And what we have started to do is link the biodiversity matrix that we collected and the conflict event location matrix to environmental attributes to develop maps, to develop predictive models. And one of these outcomes is with conflict probability maps. What's the probability of a crop elephant conflict in this landscape based on the existing data? So this is us. Our team is looking to find a rapid solution to the restoration challenges that we face. We are working across sectors and disciplines to do so, and we do hope to bring a lot of added value to the Science for Nature and People partnership. SNAPP teams, they have done awesome projects around the world with real applied impacts, and we hope to continue that tradition. We approach our project as a pilot study to demonstrate the value and do so before we upscale it to regions elsewhere. Basically, what we want to do is establish best practice for restoration in rural tropical landscapes. Our research is driven by stakeholders and underwritten by strong cutting-edge science, and the restoration process is a narrative that is shaped by the valley and its inhabitants. We do have a theory of change that we believe will produce the outcomes needed, and we will be monitoring this, looking to document change in narratives by stakeholders over the course of the project using mental models, mind maps, and social network analysis. What you see in the background is a visual representation of the system, method, and model framework that we will use to analyze and bring the data together to produce research outcomes. And I will now add the website links for the different project partners so you can read more about their work. There is Tanzanian NGO STEP, Southern Tanzania Elephant Program, focusing on elephants, restoration of movement corridors for elephants in Tanzania. There's Access Tanzania, a BBSRC funded research project looking at natural capital benefits in forest agricultural landscapes. The Tanzania Forest Conservation Groups, Reforest Africa, and the Nature Conservancy. Thank you for listening.